The following is presented by the Cheeky Bastards.
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
Yippee Ki-Yay motherfuckers, and welcome to the 9th edition of Dropping a Bruce, the monthly podcast where we watch every single one of Bruce Willis's 40 direct-to-video releases from his acting career to see if he took the role for a paycheck and dropped a deuce, or if in fact he took the role and gave it his all and dropped a Bruce. I am the notorious Scott K.
And from the UK, this is Steve, and I want to know, why does the spider climb so high?
And together, we will be your rock-steady captains on this 40-month journey through the lesser-known movies of Mr. Bruce Willis's filmography. This month's stop is the 2016 crime thriller, Marauders. We will find the answer to Steve's question. However, before we dive into that, I want to thank all of you who listened to us on the last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network. We truly, truly appreciate your continued support and listenership, and we hope that you are enjoying this bizarre, sometimes maddening, sometimes surprising, and sometimes spider-filled questions of a show about Mr. Bruce fucking Willis and the movies most of you have not ever seen and may have not even heard of. You're in good company because until we started this podcast, a majority of these films I didn't even know they fucking existed.
I didn't know.
Some of them I wish they didn't, and some have been like, hey, you know what?
Hey, it's been some surprises.
And since last month, we broke a string of just 4 consecutive kick to the dick type of films that we had to struggle through. Last month was a bit of a surprise.
It certainly was.
November here in America, our Thanksgiving time, that you're going to be, I think this might be playing either the Tuesday after Thanksgiving here in America or right before Thanksgiving. So, is this going to be a helping of Bruce? Or is this going to be someone changed up the fucking recipe and gave you a deuce from Marauders? Neither of us have talked about it. As a matter of fact, 10 to 15 minutes before we started recording, I just finished it. So we're going to get into it.
Wow, this is exciting. This is a first. I mean, yeah, no, we've often come in cold. We've come in cold a couple of times, yeah. But a lot of the time, most of the time, I think I'm the one who's lagging behind. So
it's all right.
I watched it last night.
Okay, I started it last night. I got it in a little late. Did the first 40 minutes and said, you know what, I'll knock the last hour out. Today. Yeah. So that's what I did.
So I watched it last night, and I didn't watch it again tonight, but there were just a few things I just wanted to confirm. You know, so I sort of flicked through it, I guess, just for a couple of moments, just to be sure, because you know the listeners deserve us. Well, no, they deserve our full attention.
Well, after Precious Cargo, I mean, we were on this. We felt we were on a slope, and who knows? Maybe there's a little bit of bend in the road. You never know.
I'm not even sure how I feel yet.
We're gonna get into it, but before we find out why the spider climbs so high and who the fuck TJ Jackson is and why is all of his fucking DNA at the crime scenes, it's time for our...
What you talking about, Willis?
Just the facts, man. Just the facts.
This film was released in 2016, written by Michael Cody and Chris Sivertson, and directed by Stephen C. Miller, starring Christopher Maloney, Bruce Willis, Dave Bautista, Adrian Grenier, Jonathan Skeech, Lydia Hall, Tyler John Olsen, and Texas Battle. With a runtime of 107 minutes, it holds a 5.5 rating on IMDb and a 22 critics and 19 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. When a bank is hit by a brutal heist, all evidence points to the owner and his high-powered clients, but as a group of FBI agents dig deeper into the case and the deadly heists continue, it becomes clear that a larger conspiracy is at play. Lionsgate and Grindstone Entertainment Group presents Marauders.
My friends, only small fingers believe there's a top plateau to reach. We here at Hubert National Bank will never stop climbing higher to maximize your bottom line.
Do not be a hero. We're here for the bank's money, not yours.
We have a robbery homicide. Brutal. Very personal. How much was taken?
$3 million and whatever was in the registers.
You seem to have some kind of relationship with the man who was killed there?
Trying to stay out of it.
Alexander Hubert, the younger brother of Jeffrey Hubert, was held for ransom in 2011.
Kidnapping went south. Alexander Hubert died.
Now we have another attempt to get Hubert's money.
How often do you think the owner of a bank visits his branches? I mean the man at the very top. He visits ours a lot.
Agent Montgomery, they've hit another bank.
We're on it.
A $3 million donation to a charity. These guys are trying to make themselves look really good. Are you suggesting that these guys are doing the right thing by leading me to a bigger fish?
Safety deposit boxes where people keep their dirt.
Now, why did he hold on to something so incriminating?
7 of 16 representatives have accounts at Hubert's branch.
What's the difference between a question and an allegation?
An allegation is the one you don't answer.
Yeah.
You crazy!
Hubert is still out there.
Not everybody needs a gun to get things done.
Mr. Bruce Willis plays Jeffrey Hubert, the head of a large national bank located in Cincinnati. Thank God we're no longer in the fucking South with these films. We decided to take some money and move up a little bit north and look like we're in a real city. All right, good.
That was a very welcome change, I must say.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Hubert has high-powered friends, and he may or may not have had his younger brother killed. Bum, 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 the plot thickens. Now, as we started about a month or two ago, I forget now, but we started to tell you about the movies that Mr. Willis did. Now, if you remember last month's episode, the only other film he did in 2016 was Precious Cargo Marauders, were his direct-to-DVDs. The only movie he did theatrical release was his cameo during the end credits of Split. So we're ending the 2016s. We are getting awfully close to the end of his Hollywood theatrical release career, sadly. But we've got 31 of these to go. We're almost a fourth of the way through. We almost did it.
Hey, I've been enjoying this, man.
Me too. We still got 31 to go.
You know what? Some of these movies have just flat out sucked, but I'm glad I've seen them. I'm glad I'm seeing it. I'm enjoying this. This is an interesting exercise.
Those of you who have just finished listening to our end of 3 consecutive months on our Cheeky Bastards main podcast, where we just finished talking about the legendary maestro himself, Mr. Michael Bay. We did 15 of his films in a row. And while it was a daunting task, it was definitely one that has enriched me, and I think my cohort here, in the ability to watch some films, but in consuming them in a great quantity, you have more of an appreciation and understanding and an education on those filmmakers.
An illuminating experience.
Yes, and this has been one of those. Another kind of like that was a roller coaster of a ride. Some amazing films, some like, what the fuck is this? We're in that same territory currently. In the first season of this, the first 12, we've had a bit of a bit of a shakeup, and I'm enjoying it.
There's been some highs and there's been some lows.
Yes, we have been below shit. We have been, I don't know if there is a below shit, but we've been there. Now, this film, the plot of Marauders, is a series of violent bank robberies carried out by masked men seem to be aimed at the well-connected owner of these banks. However, these crimes may not be motivated by money, but rather by vengeance and a need for redemption. I will say straight out the gate, as soon as I hit play and this came up, and our Steve's favorite title, and that's the clown, the Everett guys, The Train. I was like, okay, there it is. Steve, we're gonna get a lot of those because that's just this guy's company. But instantly, I was like, this has the look of a theatrical released Hollywood film. Like instantly, I was like, okay, we're in different territory today. We're in different territory for this film. I thought, oh, okay, I'm excited. And without skipping right to the end and telling you how we feel about it, there are, as we're going to discuss, there are some definite holes and issues, but a lot better paced, acted, filmed, maybe even written film than some of the ones we have seen in quite some time. So I preface it that way because up until this point, so those of you who are listening to this, who could be years from when we actually record this, we could be finished. By some of you may listen to this after we finished, or we're like another season's down, and we may have gotten better movies or worse movies. So up until this point, up until episode 9, the 8 films we've watched prior, there have been some good ones, a few, maybe 1 to 3, depending on 2 to 3, depending on who we talk to, me or Steve. This one, I feel like falls in a category where I was surprised it didn't have a theatrical release, just based on the acting in it, based on the people, and the way it looked. It didn't feel right out the gate like a direct-to-DVD. It felt like a B movie or someone's first-time directing film. Steve, what was your first take when you hit play on fucking Marauders?
Okay, well, I tried to do some research and find that, because I agree with everything you've just said, firstly, but I wanted to delve into the budget of this movie a bit, and I could not. They're still so cagey about these budgets.
I'm telling you right now, we've talked about it. I believe they're washing drug money. I'm just going to be honest with you. At this point, I'm going, they're washing drug money.
I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I'm constantly so curious about the budget of these movies, because we know they didn't make any money. Ironically, they're pretty upfront about the box office, because I doubt they can control that. But they're very cagey on the info with these budgets, man. So it made them. Yeah, okay, it made $1 million. I think that's a bit of an echo at the moment. They all seem to hover around that area. So I don't know how much this movie cost, but no question, there's definitely a vibe, a theatrical vibe to it. Or you know what? Even if you disagree, you can't disagree 100% with that. You could say like, oh no, I still think it looks a bit Netflix, or yeah, but even that's a step up to say that.
Yeah. I would even say this looks a little bit better than some of the Netflix films. It just has, it really did have a heat grit to it. Like just the look of it, I was like, okay, we're starting off with a.
Yeah, there's certain shots that I thought, there's money. This looks good. I feel like. I didn't know if I was being lured into a false sense of security.
Well, the last time we saw Mr. Stephen C. Miller's film, it was Extraction, a couple months back, and the look completely changed in the year. I mean, what was it, a year ago? In time frame when it was released.
Yeah, no, that did look. That's the kind of movie we're talking about, where you're not fooling me here. You are. Yeah. You'd make this movie with peanuts, literally. Probably. So but this one, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Really, it's certainly got a better look to it. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you talk about the acting and performance and characters. We're operating on a higher level here. Not high, perhaps not high enough, but we're definitely on the right track.
I did make a note, and we'll get to why I believe what you're saying. We both feel the same. And I have a reason why, but this was definitely one of those movies where I actually enjoyed watching the movie. There are some miscues and there's some plot holes and some stuff like that. But overall, the main actors that we have, and you've already heard them before, but I will mention them again. Christopher Meloni.
He's the fucking man.
Fucking unbelievable. I mean, I think I said last month I enjoyed MPG, Mark Ball, whatever he said his last name. He was good.
Yeah.
But I think Christopher Meloni right now, if we were giving out an award, wink, wink, we might at some point. If we were giving out an award, maybe for who had the best acting so far, he's in my top. He's top 2, if not number 1. Right? He's
firing on all cylinders.
And I kept watching this going. Now I've seen his Netflix show, and he's phenomenal. Then obviously he's in the SVU shows here in America and all that stuff. He's in the show Happy, from the director who did one of my favorite horror / movies of Nicolas Cage's career, Mom and Dad. But Christopher Meloni needs to get a little more screen time and more films once they come off as a strike.
He's underused, this guy.
Oh, my God. He was phenomenal.
Right, first, before we get out of Happy, if you haven't seen Happy, it is a mind blower.
Yes.
You haven't seen, I don't care who you are, you've never seen anything like it.
No, it's a spectacular TV show.
And Chris Meloni is just, so underused.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of, he's like a best kept secret or something. I don't know, but he should be doing more.
I agree with you. He is a spectacular actor. And Dave Bautista starts to show his acting chops in this film.
Agreed.
He starts. He starts. You know what I mean? He starts to show his chops. You've got. Bruce. We'll get into him too. I thought he was pretty good, and even Adrian Grenier, and of course my man Jonathan Skeech pops back up, and then mainstays of this podcast, apparently. Lydia Hall, she jumps in. We got Tyler John Olsen again over here. Oh, it's like a fucking family reunion every episode of season 1.
Okay, I've got to, just before we get too carried away, Adrian Grenier guy, I'm not as sold on this.
It's okay, but he was a major star with Entourage.
I know, but
now,
this guy...
here's the funny thing. I think in the same year or
he's
a year
not
later,
good, okay?
He's also in a movie. Now, I don't know if Petros listens to us on this, but he'll know. There is a movie that I've talked about called Deadfall, where there's a Nicolas Cage character in there that's just bonkers. Well, something happens to him in that original movie where he shouldn't be in a second movie, if you know what I'm saying. Well, for reasons we don't know, Stephen C. Miller here brings him back to life in another movie with Nicolas Cage reprising his role. But he's in a movie called Arsenal. And Nicolas Cage plays one of his best roles ever, Eddie King from Deadfall of 94. It's not nearly as good in this movie. It's bizarre. And Jonathan Skeech is in it. So there seems to be this thing for Mr. Stephen C. Miller. He seems to like to work with the same people. Cusack's in it as well. It's not good. This one was pretty
a lot
good.
Of familiar faces.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces. I told you, it's a world that we're going to be working in here.
Yes,
I truly believe.
It's like
Now, if you get a chance to see this movie, Steve, I don't know if you've played any video games. Well, probably late 2000s, early 2010s, I'm thinking. I'm trying to remember if my son doesn't listen to this, but if he did, he would know. He and I played this game called Army of Two. It was a pretty cool fucking video game.
I know the game.
The masks in this movie are from that game. Like, they're directly from that game. So just anyone who's watched who played the game Army of Two, if you go, this fucking looks familiar, those are the exact masks
Do you know
that
what?
they use in the game.
I didn't make that connection, but as soon as I saw the masks and the guys in, raining, the slow motion, they got these masks and the automatic weapons. First thing I thought of was like a PlayStation game, front cover to a PlayStation game. Even the title card to the movie. I don't know if you noticed this, but there's no credits in this movie.
No, which was just first, because we always talk about how good the credits are.
Exactly. Because you always get, obviously you got the production company names coming up at the beginning. Then you get like the robbery scene, which is good. But then you get the Marauders title card, and that's it.
Yeah, and they slowly push it on the Marauders title card, and then, boom, we're into the next part of the film. We start going through.
But just to keep on track with previous episodes, for my research, 12 producers on this movie.
Look at the less hands, the better it's starting to get.
Exactly.
Take note.
So,
any of you out there thinking about becoming producers, maybe a few less of you. You know what I mean? Maybe you and a couple of your friends.
We get 12 producers on this one. So, we're on our way down. Yeah. But anyway, I digress.
No one wants that many dicks in one spot. You know what I'm saying?
No.
A few less dicks is a little bit better. A lot less sausage at the sausage party. Thank you. The opening is really good. And you said rain. I think he went with a 7 motif. This is Stephen C. Miller. He's like, I'm going to combine 7 with some heat because it rains the entire film. Cincinnati's never seen more rain than in this film. So it rains a lot, which is fine. It does add an element. I didn't mind it at all. I noticed it immediately. I was like, man, it's been raining all the time. Like, I'm sure this is London. We sure this isn't an English one. I love the opening. When you do a bank robbery, it's hard these days, especially since the 90s, to not be compared to heat. It's hard to do anything with masks and not be compared to heat.
Yeah, I agree.
The Town did a great job of avoiding that. The Ben Affleck starring and director film. And I thought, now I'm not saying this film is in the same caliber as those two completely, but I really enjoyed this opening robbery. It was very inventive and thought out. I mean, even some of the violence or whatever does happen, it's a little bit more realistic this time through. I love the whole using the smartwatch and having a speaker and not giving up your voice. At least this part of what they were doing, someone really thought it out. Like, there was some time taken, and I think the writers and director knew that, look, if we're going to do a movie that's basically around bank heists, we've got to make sure that we don't get saddled into the fact that, oh, you're just doing another Heat. And the fact that they decided to make their robbery, at least for the first one, and even some of the other ones they do, not like Heat, I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed it. And I thought they did a damn fine job of pulling off that first heist. As soon as that first 5 minutes goes through, unlike our last film where it was kind of like you're kind of like, what the hell's going on? It was kind of fun, but you're like, this doesn't make sense. This one I was like, okay, you've got me invested now. Like I'm really invested in what's about to happen because I'm like, it looks good. I'm like, I'm in. You're pulling me in.
There's a bit of a shaky cam vibe to it, so but that's a sign of that particular time.
Agreed.
But you can figure out what's going on.
You don't feel like you're having an epileptic seizure. Then that's just it's not like some kind of weird John Woo karate fight. It's like I don't know who just kicked somebody who punched anybody.
Yeah, exactly. You can tell what's happening. I mean, Chris, I can't say the guy's name. Chris
Siverston. Yeah.
Say that again.
Siverston, I think it's Siverston.
Thank you. Say it for me. Yeah, and Michael Cody. This is the only movie they've written, which I'm surprised. Or only one of their script has been produced anyway.
We've gone through the Fabrizios. This is stand-up. They did. Again, I have some notes about where they fall short. But for your first time out the gate, that's pretty damn good.
Since 2016, this is the only movie they've had produced. The only script they've had produced. Kind of surprises me really compared to the Fabrizio.
The Fabrizio, fucking pass them on fucking Fabrizio, get at least do a tree. Actually, they're getting pulled in for these big projects. Hey, come on, give these other guys a chance. They did a pretty decent job.
Exactly, that was a surprise.
They had some choice dialogue, not just like our usually funny quips. They had some real, again, Christopher Maloney. He was chewing up the scenery, but not in a Thomas Jane way. You were just you know what I'm saying. You were mesmerized by him. Like he wasn't going on to a big character thing. He was just
he's one of those guys who like Thomas Jane in the Vice movies. Like, this may be a low budget, straight to streaming movie, but I'm going all out. He's deadly serious. In this,
he was great.
He's
one of the few guys who can go back and forth with Bruce Willis size wise, but had the acting chops to make his threats feel like
he can go toe to toe. Yeah, there's a lot of stoicism with a lot of these characters. We're talking, this is some deadly. This is played deadly serious.
Well, when he says, I could throw you through this, I could throw you into that floor-to-wall glass window over there. And Bruce is like, that's one way it could go. And that's a little toe-to-toe. I was like...
There's some back and forth.
It was great.
There's some very decent back and forth.
But it's the one moment you feel like someone who says that, you're like, oh, I think Bruce might be outmatched. Normally, some other fat guy says, like, oh, Bruce is going to... Who are you talking to? This is John McClane over here. Exactly.
Shut the fuck up. You're making a fool of yourself.
Exactly.
Not Chris Maloney. This guy is serious business. I absolutely loved him in this movie. And that's just one guy.
I can't gush about him enough in this movie. For any of the shortcomings that we'll get into, this movie has.
There are a few.
And there are. And a lot of it's plot. A lot of it's still like a B movie. It's a lot of, these are guys who are getting more professional, our director here, and it's getting there, but it's not there yet, right? Like it's still, they're close.
You can see the improvement. Definitely.
Yes, you can.
No question.
And he should be hiring, well, maybe Christopher Maloney's like, I got happy now. But this movie made me want to watch more Christopher Maloney. Like, I've never really been a big fan of the SVU because they just keep going on forever, it seems like. Like, there are some of our American shows, they just never end. And there's always a new SVU or a new something. But he is so good.
Is that the one with Ice-T? Is that the show? Because I've never seen.
Yes, it's Law and Order, but he's Law and Order SVU. Now, if you really like Christopher Maloney, if you know where he comes from in that world, I'm a fan of the HBO show from the mid to late 90s called Oz. He was in Oz. That's where he gets hit. Oh, he was phenomenal in that. So he has been on my radar for 30-some years almost now, and he just keeps getting better and better. So we may turn this, when we're done with Bruce, we may go to Christopher Maloney. Is it Maloney or Baloney? Huh? There you go, folks. You might be seeing that in 3 years. Oh.
No, great.
To get into the spider speech, my note is it's a great speech. Yet, here's the funny part, right? So we get this close up, and it's our real first introduction to Bruce. There's been a robbery. We're learning about him. He's got some schlub come in, and I don't know, he's walking some people around. All I could think of was when they're walking around the Japanese people in Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original. You know what I'm talking about? It's just walking them through you have no idea why these people are there, but it just happens to be part of the script. And they ask him a question, and he says some things, and he goes, there's a spider outside his window. It's a brown recluse. Apparently, also, he's a big fan of spiders. He knows the difference in spiders. He said, what floor are we on? And they're like, the 14th. He goes, you mean the dreaded 13th? Because they skip floors here in America, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, why does the spider climb up this high? And he goes, this big thing. And then they do this wide shot. And this whole speech he's just done, which is great.
It's great.
It's ruined because when you see he's on a window, but there's a fucking balcony. So he didn't climb up 13 floors. It took away from the whole speech. I was like, you should not have cut to the wide shot. We should not have seen the fucking balcony. Great speech, but that's a fucking fucking balcony. That little cocksucking spider's getting too much credit right now.
I thought exactly the same thing. That's unavoidable.
I know.
But that's it. But it is a great speech, and I guess it's that. I don't want to be mean, but I think it's one of those moments where it's like, okay, look, so we better give Bruce Willis something to do. A little bit. Because he's not, we know once again, he's not in it that much.
He was definitely there more than a day or two.
Yes.
He probably has more scenes not in one spot than he has in a lot of the movies we've watched recently.
Oh, no doubt.
A lot of times he's like in 3 locations that's all they were going to shoot him in. You got these 3 locations, that's all we get with Bruce. You better make the most of it.
But in a lot of the scenes, there's not much for him to do, but he is given, this is like his moment, but they put it in there early on, just because you paid to see Bruce Willis, you're going to get some Bruce Willis.
And he's supposed to possibly be our heavy, but again, another one of those movies where he's maybe the heavy, but we're very left in the dark if he really is our bad guy or not. We don't feel that pull to being like, this is the cocksucker we got to get. I never had that feeling. I was like, he's probably shady. But he did grow himself a bit of a beard, and he let his hair grow back in. So he's got that horseshoe baldness with a little bit of hair.
Yeah.
It was nice to see him a little changed up, because he's been the same, except for the CGI beard.
He kind of looks how he should. He kind of looks how he should look.
Exactly. And he's playing a bank manager. So he looked, or a bank owner. He looked a little more the part of what I would expect a person in his position to look.
He doesn't look like Lex Luthor running a bank, and that's like everyone's surprised.
He's not about to stop a bunch of terrorists, He's not stopping Hans
everyone's
Gruber.
Suddenly surprised that he's like a bad guy.
He looks like Hans Gruber. He's like in his Hans Gruber face.
Yeah, but he doesn't
one.
look like a bad guy, does he? He looks like a pretty average schmo.
He looks like a guy who will be running a bank. You go, yeah, that prick right there. He's in a country club. He runs a fucking bank. Look at this fucking guy.
Yeah. So
with his brown recluses on his fucking balcony.
But I think let's get in. There are a couple of other actors in this.
Well, my next note was the next scene. I had it written down for you too. I was like, oh, there's Lydia Hall as an FBI agent, and here's Tyler John Olsen as a dirty cop. I was like, boom, they're back. It's like the Hall and Olsen show.
It's kind of like a Tarantino thing.
It is.
You got
Hall and Olsen. We got Hall and Olsen. Boom.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go. There's Zoe Bell. There's Kurt Russell over
She's
here.
Back.
That's kind of like he's got his own little. Own little dramatic society going on here. Not on that level.
No.
But hey,
Dave Bautista, I enjoyed him.
Well, he's just natural, isn't he? He's just a very naturally gifted guy.
I said, why is Dave Bautista wearing his FBI jacket in the FBI building? Like, he seems, I was like, I wondered if he was like only on set for a couple of days too, because he was still maybe wrestling or trying his career. And it's just like, Dave, we get it. When you're out in the field, you're in the FBI jacket, but you're wearing it in the office. It's almost like, you know what I mean? He was like, oh, I'm wearing it home all the time. Like, hey, guess what? I made the FBI. It's almost like he had to keep selling to us that he was in the FBI. Like, in case we couldn't believe that Dave Bautista was an FBI agent. He's always in that fucking FBI parka.
Yeah, but no, Dave Bautista, he's just got that X factor of that presence that you just can't, some people have got it, some people haven't, no matter how you try to sell certain people.
He'll have been in the Guardians of the Galaxy already. He'll have already been in that. Yeah. He may have already been in Guardians. Like, he's already on his trajectory. He's already been in the MCU. Yeah, he's already starting his.
He's on his way up.
And he's getting close to doing 2049.
He's just so natural. He's just so natural, that guy. He's just... so hats off to him. And then there's your guy.
Adrian Grenier.
Not fuck that guy.
Oh, which guy?
He's useless.
Who's my guy?
Your guy. Your fucking guy over here.
Oh, Jonathan Skeech. But boom. That thing you do. What are you doing?
Hey, mad props.
He's not bad, man. He's pretty good in these. He's
mad props to this guy. I can't even say his fucking name.
I don't even know if his last name's proper. I'm just saying Skeech. I'm just assuming that's how you say it. I don't know. No one has corrected us yet, so it's spelled Scheaech. Skeech?
Johnny Boy. That's what we're calling.
Johnny S.
I don't think that's Skeech, that's Sheech.
Johnny Sheech Marin over here. Oh, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm saying Johnny Sheech.
Johnny Boy, hey.
Yeah, Jonathan Sheech. Jonathan Sheech he's great in this. One thing it's not probably to do with the plot as such, but between Chris Maloney and Jonathan Sheech, there's some dark backstory stuff.
I'm glad you brought it up because I put it down. My note was the sad side stories of Filoni and Skeech I feel are pointless and unnecessary. Because Jonathan Skeech's character is this, it's a very, he acts the shit out of it. He acts the fucking dog shit out of it. As does Maloney. So I don't want to take nothing away from the other performances. Even in the moments, they're acting the shit out of these. But we get these dark backstories of them. Did they help propel our story? And Maloney didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like Maloney just didn't need any of that.
No, because obviously, I know what you're saying.
And Skeeches was more like a get out of jail free card so that he can make a turn.
Look, Jonathan Sheech's character, his wife is dying of cancer.
Yeah, but you should give the
Maloney,
is prior to that, we think he's a dirty cop. And then they spring this on us so that we then go, oh, that's why he's a dirty. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like it was like a bridge for us.
But then you got Maloney's character, whose wife was a cop too and was murdered.
Undercover. Brutally murdered.
Yeah, but she was brutally murdered. So that's why he's so driven. So I think that it does actually benefit the plot.
Okay. I mean, I just felt it slowed it down a hair.
But this is why you've got better characters.
Yes.
I think.
But unfortunately, I think what leads to some of it is this is where some of the writing gets off. We didn't get the payoff for the Maloney thing, right? Because we hear about it towards the end.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. When he went to Mexico, did you think he was going after the guy who got his wife? You never got this call. And he's headed off to Mexico because that guy's name is Velasquez or something. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he broke out in a scene that got cut. And I was like, oh, he's going to Mexico. I'm like, tell me he's catching up to Velasquez. Tell me we're going to get he's going to tear him apart with his bare hands. And then it's kind of like we learned the fate of Velasquez. And I was kind of like, oh.
But that's not the character. He's a very by-the-books character. That wouldn't have rung true to me. I wouldn't have rung true to me. But here's the thing with this movie. People probably don't know what the fuck we're talking about because we've skipped to the end there. So I'm going to go back. There is a lot of this movie that is a fucking mess, right? Now, here's where I will extend an olive branch to what you've just said about Maloney and Sheech's characters, the backstory stuff being necessary or not. I hear what you're saying. Mainly, I hear what you're saying because, wait a minute, you're giving these guys backstory and exploring these characters. What about the movie? So I know what you're saying, but it's like
because we're kept in the dark about the real reason for the robberies for a long time.
For a long time,
and then we just kind of get thrown these extra stories. And you're kind of like, I don't really care. What's going on with this right here? Why is this happening?
I like the stuff with those guys, and thankfully it's there because everything else seems a little bit formulaic and convoluted and kind of overly confusing. You know. I'm kind of like, this should be simple.
I almost feel like, you know what? They should have introduced their characters with the backstory. That would have made more sense.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We could have then gone from there and now go, now we know the motivations.
But you're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this movie.
Yeah.
And you don't need to, because I could describe the plot to this. I could write the plot of this movie on the back of a matchbox. But they think there's something more than that. And it's not. So, like you said, I agree. You know, the backstory, you may think that kind of hold things up, but I think that's more involving to me than the convoluted nonsense of why these robberies are taking place, which, as you pointed out, it's kind of like a bit like, oh shit, we better explain why all this is happening.
Yeah.
And then it's all very rushed, and you're a bit like, what the fuck? So, yeah, you know, it's kind of like, this movie's not perfect, you know what I mean? I don't even think this movie is as good as the last one, in a lot of ways.
I know what you mean.
But in a lot of ways, it's better. So
I know exactly what you mean.
To and fro going on here. So yeah, I know what you're saying, but I like the backstory stuff. But I think I liked it because everything else was getting a little bit out of hand and messy. Whereas that you could kind of attach yourself to and feel comfortable with, and you understood. You know, because it's a trope that we're familiar with in these kind of, you know, these kind of driven but ultra-focused cops.
I mean, yeah, even in Heat, Pacino's character's got a wife who he barely spends time with, he's got a stepdaughter, tries to commit suicide. Like De Niro's character, he finally finds love. You know what I mean? There's all these things thrown in. But I think what helps in those, it's the placement of them. And this, we didn't get good. Because when we first meet Pacino in that film, he's having sex with his wife. They shot, and then they talk about the daughter's got to get ready, and is this deadbeat going to pick her? So we kind of get some of that early backstory. So when she finally tries to commit suicide, Natalie Portman's character, we're now invested in that. Because if we got it early, the rest of it would be okay. Because so we're doing a bank robbery, then we move into the police procedure with the FBI, but then we skip moments. Like there was a moment where Chris Maloney almost looked like he was going to commit suicide, and you're kind of like, when did I ever see him feel that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well,
I know he's got like the stoic buying the wine thing, but you never got the feeling he was
I think like the focus if only the film was as focused as Christopher Maloney's character.
Yes.
And look,
If
let's move
Maloney
away.
could have directed this thing.
I think we should move away from Maloney and discuss Sheech more, because I thought this guy was like a fucking.
He has great emotional range in this movie.
It was the other film Vice.
Vice
that
is
he
one.
was in.
Yeah, well, he's been in 2 others. He's been in Vice and he was in Fire. No, not Fire with Fire. He was in The Prince. He was the one who held on to the guns for reasons we still don't know why he held on to the guns.
Do you know what? I wouldn't say I disagreed with you too much on them, but I was a bit underwhelmed by him, and I didn't see what you saw. Okay, but in this, I was like, holy shit, Scott's onto something. Is kind of what I loved this guy in this.
He kept us off balance in this film, which is what I liked. There were moments I wasn't sure if he wasn't a part of the team, part of the robbery. You know what I mean? There's that one moment of slow-mo when Maloney's watching him.
Yeah.
That's another. Yeah. I'll give a little tip of the cap to the filmmakers.
No,
I was on my back foot with him.
Yeah, no, because I thought at any minute that his mask, something's going to happen where someone's going to grab the mask off, and that's going to be him.
I thought he was the one he was holding when they're in the in the building.
You've got these mercenaries robbing these banks, basically, and Maloney's FBI. Sheech is.
Well, Sheech also lied on the witness stand against the guys, which was still kind of confusing what happened. When Maloney's telling the story, he told the lie, but he thought he was helping Maloney be able to get off. Yeah, exactly, to get the guy or whatever. Yeah, but yet he still was in prison. That was kind of confusing too.
Yeah, so he lied on the witness stand, and that ended up getting Maloney's wife's killer off.
For something, yeah.
But again, but Sheech is he's playing it more intense, I would say more quietly tense, whereas Maloney is kind of a blowhard sort of guy. Yeah, he kind of wanders in and he's throwing shit around and calling everyone a motherfucker.
And Skeech is also intentionally playing sides against each other. Like, he is trying to maneuver his best way possible to do the things he wants to do.
And I guess, but that's interesting because I think that makes us wonder about him.
Exactly. Agreed. Because I never knew his total motives for a while.
So it's deliberate, but you need that because Maloney is so by the book.
Yeah.
So you've got this kind of, last good cop and the shady cop who eventually kind of converge. We love that shit. Did Maloney remind you a little bit like a little tougher, more muscly John McClane if he'd stayed like he finally climbed up? It wasn't, he's not like he's got sarcastic moments, but they're more tough guy sarcasm, right? But I will say this: I did think at various points in the film, Bruce should be playing this guy.
Yes, like an older one. I know why they didn't, because if they did, it's John McClane.
Of course.
We're watching John McClane.
Yeah, not to diss Maloney, but he's playing the Bruce Willis part.
I know what you mean. On. If this movie's made 10 years earlier, you're 100% right.
No, don't get me wrong.
However, if someone's going to be playing the wrong part or someone else's part, Christopher Maloney made that fucking role his own. Like, that role is...
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I'm just saying.
I don't think that Bruce, in this day and age, in 2016, could have played that role better than Maloney could have at that moment. I don't know.
Well,
well, we've been on this journey, and we thought we started to see a little of the maybe aphasia sneaking in a precious cargo that no one knows about yet. Like, I don't think Bruce knows yet. So I don't know that Bruce still is firing on all those cylinders at the moment. Who knows? I could be wrong, because he does still do some good performances in this part of his career. Still a few more, but Maloney was in. Maloney was killing it.
The Bruce I love should be the Maloney part.
Oh, I'm with you.
That's all I'm saying.
With you. But if you're going to not have Bruce in that part, Maloney, I mean, very few people you can go, hey, he stepped in and took this role, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. The rest of them, we could have used Bruce in a lot of these other parts.
There's a million movies out there. There's a million movies where that character is completely miscast.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, who's this fucking bozo? They got the wrong guy for this. This movie is on fire.
And Christopher Maloney, as I was thinking about it, could have played Bruce Willis's principal in that first movie we talked about. The only other person I could see now playing, now that I've seen him here, I was like, he could have nailed it.
Yeah.
He could have nailed it. It would have been a different delivery.
That's it. Sorry, before I forget, there's another movie you should check out with Chris Maloney, and it's called Wet Hot American Summer. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Fantastic.
He's great in that. I think he's like the chef or the school cook. He's fucking great. But anyway, sorry guys, I've been mulling over in my head. What was that other movie? But anyway, so we've got some serious, acting chops going on.
And this comes to my note. I said the biggest problem with all of these films is while they have big name actors, and in this one, we finally got to see these. Let's be honest. Let's be fair. When we watched The Prince, you had Bruce Willis, you had John Cusack, and you had Patrick, right?
Yes, yeah.
If I told you that was the start of those movies, and I said in 2016, I said, well, you're going to have Bruce Willis, you're going to have Christopher Maloney, and you're going to have Dave Bautista. Those are going to be your three big, and the three big ones. You'd be like, let me see the one with Cusack. Will, that's got to be better. Not even fucking close. This guy got a lot of good stuff out of these guys. So I wanted to preface that before I start taking a little bit of shit. Now, the problem is some of this is these budgets go to the actors, so we don't get these great technical experts on these movies. And you start to notice some things like when Jonathan Skeech's guys kicked open the door. They look like a bunch of, they look like they give these kids guns and kids are going to go play with guns. Like they have no tactical sense. It's just a fucking fuckery. I was like, okay. This is some of these problems.
They didn't go to boot camp for a week before they made this movie, did they?
No. There's no police tactics or military tactics. And that's what makes these films stick out like sore thumbs, because we have watched Heat. We've watched these movies where you go, with the technicality, you're going, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, you almost feel like, am I watching this in real time? And then you get to these, and like the acting is great, but then they get to some of these moments and you go, that's where it's not the same as these other movies.
Yeah, they're quite amateurish.
Well,
some of these things.
If you look at some of the great movies, no matter who directs it, I don't care if it's Fincher, Ridley Scott, Tarantino, whoever of the greats, the big names, the Christopher Nolans, the background characters, the side characters are really good, even if they have one fucking line.
Yeah.
We get great acting, and then we get some people that get thrown in because they don't have the money, and they're like some extra people. And I'm not making fun of Lydia Cole, but some of the girl who played the reporter, some of the, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, Christopher Maloney's like fucking barking orders, and him and Bruce Willis are going toe to toe, and it's like, I'll throw you through this window. That may be how it happens. Like you're like, whoa, and then all of a sudden it's like, fine, you're like, who the fuck is this asshole? Yeah. Who did she owe? Who owes her a favor that she got this fucking movie? Or this guy, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it puts like the brakes on it. It takes you out of that moment that then makes this film stick out from being a movie that like we would own. And be like, have you seen this? And be like, what a surprise this is, to being like, I still may say that, but like, this is actually better than you probably think it is. But then those factors will pop up and are right in your face. And for the people who aren't willing to sit through them like you and I are, they're gonna be like, this fucking bitch sucks. This guy's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
What is, this is awful. So
yeah, I think we're like 9 movies in or whatever.
Yes, 9 in, baby.
And there are definitely, like, as you pointed out, there are definitely films I'd recommend.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't been all bad, but there are just certain things that just hold them back just that little bit too much. Like some films are pretty run of the mill, but there's nothing wrong with run of the mill sometimes.
Well, because you could have some good moments in them.
Yeah, you can have good movies, good moments, and you can just something you can just put on a Sunday afternoon where you're having a beer and scratching your balls or whatever. You're just chilling out watching a movie.
We know what Steve does on Sundays.
Hey.
Ew.
But then there's some films where you're just like, you're going to be very disappointed with this.
5 minutes in, you're going to want to punch someone in the face.
Yeah, exactly. So, whereas this one, it looks like a movie.
It feels like a movie for quite a bit of it. I'm gonna be honest.
It's got some great actors. It's got some great performances as well. I did find myself at various points tuning out because it was just overly confusing.
There could have been a better edit job to it. They could have
the story
structure could have worked. Yeah,
but come on, just get moving.
I even put one of my last notes is the ending felt a bit rushed and unsatisfying in my opinion, which was a little disappointing.
Well, I think the actual end, in Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico.
Mexico. That was all a bit out of left field and just kind of like, man.
Which is why I said I thought, he's going after Velasquez. I'm like, I don't know how this is happening, but I was like, fuck it. I want to see Christopher Maloney rip someone's face off.
But when Maloney leans over and guts Bruce Willis, that's just too implausible.
I know.
It's implausible. It's mainly implausible because of the character we've just watched for an hour and 40 minutes.
Yes.
Maloney's character would not do that.
No.
Because he's so by the book. And that's not like you can say, you just thought he was by the books. No. He is
the whole movie.
The overall, overriding factor of this character, what makes this character is that he is the by the books guy. There is no inkling throughout any of this film that he might be a bit shady. Where if Jonathan Cheech would have fucking leant over and sliced Bruce Willis's throat or something, you'd have been like, well, I knew he was crazy, but I didn't know he was this crazy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that you could have bought.
Yeah.
But Maloney's character, that just didn't work.
No.
That did not work. So you're right. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. You know, it's like that kind of thing where you're like, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, but sometimes you didn't see it coming because it's been programmed that way and you've been led in that direction. This is just like, have Maloney stab him. It's like, what?
Well, because Grenier's turn, it's been seeded as the movies kept going. I was like, I think Adrian Grenier might be more than meets the eye. He might be a transformer, right? It was seeded.
Yeah, I think that was pretty signpost.
First off, Grenier should have been the Dave Bautista character. Bautista should have been the Grenier character. I'd have bought him more as a special forces guy than fucking Adrian Grenier. But again, not his fault.
Adrian Gonorrhea is what I'm fucking saying. Listen, no, I just thought that was signposted that he was a bad guy far too early, and I didn't fucking like him. Not because he was going to be the bad guy. I just didn't buy him. I don't think he's got the chops. I think he was the weak link.
Well, you know what? He's tagged along with Skeech, so he's either in the scene with Maloney, Skeech, or Batista. You know, so they help pick up whatever he's fucking lacking in those moments for the most part.
And he is. And do you know what? You've hit the nail on the head. He's lacking in every sense, you know. It's just inauthentic. As soon as I saw him, I've never watched Entourage, so I'm not like bringing baggage and saying, no, he was great in Entourage. This is not the sort of character to be playing, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, I don't know who this guy is, but I don't buy him. I think he's a weak link in this movie. But, as you pointed out, Bruce Willis, Maloney, Sheet, Batista, these guys are legit, and they're all giving it their all. They're giving it their all.
And they're on screen most of the time.
I don't think Grenier's got an all to give. That's what I'm saying.
You're not wrong.
But
And
anyway,
you know what? I've seen his movies since the show, and I loved him in the show, but he has not been the same level of actor since the show. In all honesty, like he's been good in the show, but not good. It's not good in these movies. Because I've seen Arsenal. And Arsenal.
I'm not saying.
I wish I could say that Stephen C. Smith hit a home run with the next one that he did.
Stephen C. Miller.
Whatever. Sorry, Stephen C. Miller.
Hey,
it's you over here, Steve Smith. He's making movies. Bada bing. No, you could have been a better. Arsenal is outside of Nicolas Cage bringing back a character and then it not being as good. Arsenal's a dog shit pile as well.
But no, I'm not saying he can't act. I'm just saying I don't think he. I think he was just outmatched. I just don't think he's got what it takes. And you've pretty much said that as well in a nicer way.
I mean, the positives of this film for me are the action set pieces, which they're not good. They're not like the last movie where they're just kind of like everyone shooting everywhere. They were grounded. They felt real, and I enjoyed those. There was a lot of good tete-a-tete moments. The Maloney Willis one, it's the best one we've had, except for the first film. So I won't even use that as an example because that's a whole nother monster. That's a film unto itself. The only other good scene that we've had with him like that, even though Forrest Whitaker's character was injured, was him sitting down with Forrest Whitaker and having a conversation. Like the last good time where we got to see Willis interact with somebody on his fucking level of acting and brought something out of Bruce. Because you could watch throughout this movie, when Bruce was on screen with Maloney, you could feel the juices, right? You could feel like, I'm acting. And in the other ones, you could feel like, okay, I got to carry the scene. You know, and you could feel the change in even his acting in it.
I wonder if Maloney is probably thinking, holy fuck, I'm going to get to be in a scene with Bruce Willis. Do you know what I mean?
And threatened to throw him through a window.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. But it was like, holy shit, you know, this is probably something he's dreamed of, to be fair. I think most actors of a certain type have.
Yeah, there's no way he didn't see Die Hard and be like, so I want to be. I want to be this eventually. This is the trajectory I want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the problem with the movie, though, is the listeners may have noticed we're spending 80% of this conversation talking about the actors and their performances, because I don't think there's as much to talk about with the plot. It's a threadbare plot, overly complicated, really. So, you know, you've got the police department at loggerheads with the FBI as per, and they're all trying to find out who these bank robbers are. That's the story.
And why they're robbing the banks and why they're doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a very simple story, but why we're talking about the acting is because we have done 9 episodes. And in those 9 episodes, outside of the very first one, we have not had any kind of acting outside of maybe 1 or 2 people doing it and everyone else just fucking sleeping through it or being in the film. Like you said, like if this was directed by someone else, like someone of more stature, this movie is fucking on fire. We talk about this in the laurels of The Town, Town and Heat. This movie's up in that stratosphere because it had the potential. It just didn't have the people to bring it, to go, we need to change this about the script. Because, like you said, Jonathan Skeech, Maloney, Bruce Willis, Dave Bautista, they are swinging and hitting home runs every time they're screening, which is why you keep going with it. There's action, but it's not a full heavy, like Precious Cargo was just fucking insane action.
This isn't an action movie, is it?
It's more of a thriller. It's more of a crime thriller.
A proper crime thriller, yeah. I will even risk humiliation here and say,
ooh, I like this.
Hey,
Here we go.
Michael Bay could have directed this.
I'm with you in this.
He would have elevated proceedings. He would have
it would have been a little bit more. We would have had a little more drama because there was some slow mos, and I thought of Michael Bay when I was like, "Why is Christopher Maloney walking in slow mo right now?" No, like, what is this about? There's a couple of lens flares in there too.
I'm all for a slow mo walk, man. I wish I could slow mo walk sometimes. Ultimately, for me, this is where we're kind of like we're skirting around the issues, but ultimately, I think that it's worth watching for the performances. Stick around for everything else because it's not even a heroic failure. It's not a failure. It's just it trips itself up.
It's a B movie could have been more. It could have been. It could have been
trips itself up. Yeah, it could have been somebody.
Detective Mims had a lead on a print discovered on the fake bomb. He followed up, found weapons and drugs at the suspect's residence.
So why didn't you wait for my okay to go raid the apartment?
I'm homicide.
It was a homicide.
Don't pull this bullshit on me. I allow Cincinnati PD to fully partake in my investigations, but at the end of the day, don't make the mistake. That money says Federal Reserve note.
Well, you didn't do a very good job at reserving it.
Well, that's very clever.
Mims, comment.
Captain O'Connell, shut the fuck up. Do you know how I'm able to tell him that, Mims? Because my official title is Special Agent in Charge, which gives me the authority over a special agent who's over your captain, who's over you. You don't take evidence from a crime scene until I get there. You don't do a fucking raid unless I tell you. You got a print? I want it. James Jackson?
No. The print belongs to T.J. Jackson.
Say that again. Wait, you don't know who T.J. Jackson is?
He was a ranger.
Keyword there is was. T.J. Jackson's dead.
All right, well, let's jump into our finality here.
Favorite scene.
We'll start with our favorite scene, and I believe you will have the honor of starting us off this.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Everyone get your tea and your crumpets. What is your favorite scene of Marauders?
My favorite scene is Christopher Maloney. Now, early in the film, there's a scene of Christopher Maloney alone at a bar, and he's got a glass of red wine, and he's watching a young couple. So like late night, they're obviously in love, and they're kind of like, they're kissing each other and laughing, and he's just sort of watching them and smiling. And then he picks up his mobile phone and plays back messages from his wife. And she's saying, hurry up and come home. And she's left him some sweet messages. And you sort of watch that, and that's all kind of nice. And then it just kind of fades to black. And it's later revealed that his wife's dead, which gives it that thing that we're talking about of it's giving him backstory, and that is what was initially quite a sweet scene ends up quite a tragic scene. But it says a lot about his character and why he's so driven. So yeah, in amongst all this kind of cloak and dagger stuff and these crimes and robberies, and I just found it to be quite a quiet scene that just gave a little bit of depth to this guy without saying too much. So for me, that was my favorite scene.
For me, mine is the opening bank robbery. Look, if you're listening to this podcast or any movie podcast and you haven't seen the movie Heat and you don't know of the amazing robberies that are in that film, you know that any film from that moment on has always been held up to that level of the standard of what those scenes were. It was the intrepidation I felt when I went into the town, not knowing how they would pull it off, and then they pulled it off expertly. being somewhat of an homage, but while also making it their own, which was fantastic. And so I knew that this movie was about bank robbers because when you see the trailer, I watched the trailer and I've also saw the cover, so I thought, all right, we know what this is about. And so you go in with that same like, what's this going to be like? Is this going to be awful? And they pulled off that opening robbery. Look, wasn't as great as those other two movies, but it did its own thing. It was inventive. I liked the whole using of smartwatches, completely redoing the way they did things. They never spoke. Everything was on these commands. There was just something about it that I really enjoyed. It drew me in immediately. I was like, this opening scene with this robbery I'm either going to go, oh, fuck, I got another hour. Because this is the longest movie we've had. This went over 100 minutes. We were in the 100
This is true.
Some minutes mark. I was like, 107 minutes or something like that, right? Yeah. Yeah, 107 minutes. It was an hour 47. Yeah. So I thought, oh, boy.
That's right. Sorry, yeah.
If this doesn't carry this opening scene, Steve and I are in for a long fucking slog. And it carried, and like Steve said, it pushed into those titles, and then Christopher Meloni comes on screen, and you're just like, okay, I feel like there's something here. We're gonna have a nice watch. And that opening bank robbery set the tone, because even if Christopher Meloni was still Christopher Meloni, and that opening bank robbery was kind of garbage, it would have been like, oh, it's another movie where Bruce Willis is carrying everything, but we all know everything going around him is just fucking farcical and ridiculous, and he's just kind of like, okay, this is where I'm at in my career. And I really enjoyed that opening bank robbery. It was the best action scene they had, and then the rest, they start to move towards plot and other things happens, but this one, when you have nothing, it's fresh, and this kicks it off. It was probably also one of my favorite scenes of the 8 movies that wasn't the first movie that we opened with, that I was like, oh, all right, finally, we got something going.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Now, one of my favorite moments is our favorite one-liners or dialogue moments in our movies.
Best one-liner.
We always have some good ones, and I have a good one. I wonder what you're going to pick. So, Mr. Smith, what is your favorite dialogue moment, best one-liner from Marauders?
On this one, I've gone for a kind of just a little moment I just thought was cool, really. That's all I can really say. That's a scene between Dave Bautista and Chris Meloni at a bar again. What that says about me.
Were they scratching their balls?
They having a beer, scratching your balls. Oh. It's just we know at this point that Maloney's wife was savagely murdered.
But now we know she's dead. Yeah, badly murdered.
And Dave Bautista orders himself a whiskey. Chris Meloni looks over to him and says, "What do you think Velasquez is doing now? Getting high? Remembering how he killed my wife?" Bautista says, "Do you want to talk about it?" And he replies, "I just did." And that's it. Just that kind of hard-boiled, stoic
Great deliveries.
Dialogue. Yes. Greatly delivered by both.
Someone else returns those dialogues, and some of the movies we watch, it goes over like a fart in church.
Exactly. Do you know what? That scene is probably 40 seconds long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it stuck with me both times. But when I flicked through it and when I watched it last night, I was like, you know what? You want to know what actors do? That's what actors do. A lot is said in that 40 seconds.
Yeah, sometimes your quips are just as important as your monologue. How are you able to deliver a moment where we feel like you've got a relationship, like we do? Like we have a way we talk to each other. If people heard us about like, oh, they'd be like, all right, these guys know each other. You get that? Exactly. And that's what we need in acting. We need to know that we feel like off screen, you guys have shared time together. You know each other. I need to know that you have.
Exactly what I was going to say actually was, you got Chris Meloni, Dave Bautista. Batista hardly says a word, but in that instant, in that 40 seconds or so, as you've just said, you get an understanding of who these guys are, So it's a well-written moment. It's a well-acted moment, and it's performed by two, solid, relatable actors who have got a great presence. And it's like I say, it's 40 seconds long. It hasn't got, like you say, it hasn't got to be. We love these Tarantino movies and stuff where people get these grand moments to just spew forth this amazing dialogue. But sometimes all you need is that short, sharp, to the point thing, and that can be equally as cool.
It can.
Equally as cool. So that was it for me, just that little moment.
Well, mine happens to have Batista in it. Dave Bautista, but also Adrian Grenier. They're sitting upstairs. There's some questions that have been asked. And it starts with Mr. Grenier saying, "Vanessa Adler, she's a reporter for Channel 12, right?" Mr. Bautista says, "The one with the big tits?" Grenier goes, she's also a writer for the Plain Daily. He goes, "I only know about the big tits." I loved his delivery about it. He just he wasn't being a wise ass. He's like, "The one with the big tits." Look, all I know is she's got big tits. Like, I don't know what she does.
You know what I mean?
If she's been on TV, she's the one with the big tits. Then yes, I know what you're talking about. If you're asking me other questions, what's your favorite coffee? all I know, the one I'm talking about, has got big. I just loved that the delivery was just perfect. Because it's the one, besides that and then his thing, what we just did, it's those one few like comedic moments that are in there. You know what I mean? They're kind of like
it's
they
a
break
deadly
the
serious
tension.
movie for the most part. 100%, it's just so deadly serious.
But like some of these other movies we've watched, they try to force in comedic moments and they don't work. And this one just really played nicely. That it just was like, we're slipping these in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best performance.
That brings us to the best performance. Mr. Smith, who gave your best performance in your opinion?
This is difficult. Okay, best performance. Oh, this is tough.
I know it too. You're trying to just
all will be revealed because I don't know which way round to do it. Okay, do you know what? I've written it down.
Go ahead.
I'm 99.9% sure I'm right.
Okay.
So my best performance, Christopher Maloney. Okay.
Mine as well. Killed it.
Best performance.
Carries this movie. Without him, even though some other guys are good, without him, this movie doesn't do what you were complaining a little bit. Why we only talked about the acting is because it was so good in these movies that we have not seen before that it made all the other things that were kind of like a problem. We were able to accept it because we were still so invested in watching Christopher Maloney come on screen. You know what I mean?
No, you're right.
Every time he was on screen, you're like, man, he's really keeping me going in this movie. I mean, he could have stopped at one point, turned to the camera, and tried to sell us life insurance or reverse mortgages here in America. I've been like, I might need a reverse mortgage from Mr. Christopher Maloney. He might be right.
He's on to something. So yeah, absolutely. Great.
Favorite character.
So, Mr. Smith, now I know what your other answer is. Who was your favorite character?
Well, my favorite character. No, I think I'm right. My favorite character is Mims, played by Jonathan Sheech.
I knew you were struggling between those two.
Because he's just a very dark, tortured character, who you are unsure of. He could be a bad apple, he could be a bad cop, and in a lot of ways he is. But he's also got that sense of honor about him and doing the right thing, or at least, put it this way, if he does something bad, he does it for the right reasons. And that's what you get, I'm saying it now. Fuck this shit, right? Christopher Maloney and Jonathan Sheech, they need to buddy up. Make a buddy cop movie with like Walter Hill or someone.
I would watch a prequel for how the whole fucking thing went down with his wife. Like, I actually almost feel like that's the better movie, right? Like, I almost want to see that whole movie.
But like, Walter Hill's slumming it these days, okay? One of my favorites of all time. He's slumming it. Jonathan Sheech, Chris Maloney, and some kind of like Nice Guys knockoff.
Or even a Paul Schrader movie.
Well, I mean, Paul Schrader. I'll watch Paul Schrader fucking paint a wall. But
I think he's saying right now, if you go to his YouTube, he's live streaming. Right now, he's painting, painting his garage.
That's on his TikTok. But no, I'm saying Walter Hill's slumming it these days. He should make a film with Jonathan Sheech and Chris Maloney, kind of like a knockoff of like the Nice Guys or something. Do you know what I'm saying?
Ooh, yeah.
So, but my favorite character is Mims because he was this tortured soul, a good cop, gone bad, but not all the way bad. You didn't know if he was in on the caper, and when you find out he's not, there's still some dark shit going on where he could make a bad decision. So, So he was my my favorite character.
Mine, Mr. Agent Montgomery. I love everything Steve said. I love Jonathan Sheech. Obviously, I've been kind of trumpeting him since Vice. I thought he was fantastic in Vice. He was my guy then. Christopher fucking Maloney. Holy baloney Maloney over here. This guy over here. I bet ladies line up around the block for the baloney of Maloney. You know what I'm saying? No. He was electrifying. Like, it was a lot of fun. And like you said, I've seen him in other stuff, and he's been great. But I thought, okay, this is one of those. How about this? He was so good that we're probably going to talk about Mr. Willis once we decide how he did. And we kind of skipped through Mr. Willis, not because Mr. Willis wasn't good, but because of how amazing Christopher Maloney was carrying this film. This was a Christopher Maloney movie. Obviously, Bruce was a side character, as everyone else was. Maloney does an amazing job. He kills it. He carries this film. I loved his character. Even the end turn, look, not his fault. I loved him even up to that point. I was like, fuck it. I was like, I'm riding with you, Maloney. We're going to hell so someone else can get to heaven. All right, let's do this. We're riding with Maloney.
Hey.
When they had that little moment where he goes and visits Vasquez in prison, which we kind of skipped over. And the last thing he says to him was, I dream about killing you with my bare hands. That's when I thought we were going to Mexico. I was like, I don't even care if we find Bruce anymore. Bruce's character can get away with free. I want want Maloney v. Vasquez in the deserts of Mexico. I want Breaking Bad style shit to happen right now, and I was a little disappointed when it wasn't. So for me, Maloney is my MVP for the whole thing. He was amazing. Maloney for president.
Hey, all right, I'll take Thomas Jane as vice president then. I tell you what, though, that just goes to show how good Maloney is as Montgomery that you chose him over your boy Skeech.
Mm-hmm.
But that speaks volumes.
That'll bring us to the moment of truth.
The moment of truth.
I do apologize. I know this is a Bruce Willis podcast, and I know that we were kind of hijacked by some surprise acting. Because for most of the part, we usually tell you about Bruce is either the best part of this, or he didn't show up for it. And some other people did okay. This was one of those times where Bruce finally had some people acting with him. Like it was like a real movie. That's why this is such a conundrum of a movie, because it's like a real movie. Like it has every element to make it a movie that's not just like right to DVD, could have been released, but it falls short in some big aspects that still keep it in that B level, which is unfortunate. But I'm telling you what, these actors do everything they can to raise this up. And we haven't said that about anything outside of the first movie. And we already talked about the first movie, somehow didn't get released. That was a movie to be released. And this is probably the only other movie we've done that looks and feels like, well, that and Catch 44. The look and the acting in it, you go, okay, how do these not get released in the theater? They may have failed in the theater, but you go, how did they not get released at least? So, did Mr. Willis drop a deuce or Bruce? And how do you think how was his performance before you give our answer? That way we can kind of give a little bit of credence to the man that this is named after.
Okay, the most memorable part of Bruce Willis in this movie is the opening speech. With the bank on the 13th stroke 14th floor. He's decent in this, only just though. Like so I'm gonna say Bruce dropped a Bruce, but only just.
He most definitely dropped a Bruce.
And when I say only just, it's because of what you just said. Because he's more equally matched in this. In a lot, look, when Bruce Willis is in a movie with Ryan Phillippe and 50 Cent, he's going to shine.
Yeah.
He doesn't shine so much in this, but not because he's not doing a good job, but because he's in with more equally matched actors, I think. So he's not amazing in this, but he's with a better cast all around, and it's not as easy for him to stand out.
That's fair.
But he's good enough. This is not a deuce. This is not. He doesn't drop a deuce in it. When I think back to a few of the other movies.
Well, last episode we didn't even know he was in the film. That's how unimportant he was in Precious Cargo.
You can't compare. Yeah, exactly. So on this occasion, he just scrapes through with a Bruce, not a deuce. That's my opinion.
All right. I almost echo your sentiment. I think he was a little bit better than you give him credit for. However, I do also understand why you say what you say. His opening monologue with the spider is fantastic. He's really giving it. And then some of the other scenes when he's not with anybody, he's like, okay, he's like, all right, he's just in the movie. And it's not his fault. He's like, okay, but when he is with the other characters, especially when he's with Christopher Maloney, that scene, you can see it's like the Bruce of old is there. He doesn't overdo it. Him and Maloney are tete-a-tete. No one's backing down. Maloney throws this tough guy thing on, because Bruce goes, how do you see things playing? And he goes, well, one way is I could throw it through the and Bruce goes, that's one way it could go. And I just love that it makes you want them to go toe-to-toe more. Yeah. And when he is on screen with Maloney or he does that opening screen, he is just great. He's back in his old... You feel like, all right, Bruce is in a movie again. You're like, yes, we're watching a Bruce Willis film. We're not just watching, hey, Bruce is in this B movie and hopefully he does something. But when he's not with those guys, when he does, you do feel sometimes he's like, there's no motivation for him to give more. But when a guy like Christopher Maloney is absolutely acting his ass off with him, Bruce, look, it's not his greatest performance ever, but man, I think some of this thesis we could write at the end is, so far, when Bruce is put in scenes with people who can act, it does bring out the best in him. I sometimes feel like when he has to carry this thing or even make this movie anywhat entertaining, we're getting to a certain part of his career where he's just like, I just want to collect this money now. I don't really fucking care anymore. I don't even know why I'm here. Sometimes it feels like but this one was not one of those. Let his hair grow out. Like, he got into character for this. And so that's why I gave him Bruce. He actually was like, I'm not just going to show up, put on the same old suit, do the same old thing. My hair's grown out. I got a beard. I'm going to look the part. And so I give him a Bruce.
he most definitely dropped a Bruce.
We have not had back-to-back Bruces for movies yet this season. Even though I gave Catch 44 a Bruce, it was 2 after our first one. Last week we gave Precious Cargo. So we've had 2 films that we've both agreed are Bruces. Are we on the same page here? Is this a Bruce? Is this a Deuce? Mr. Smith, what is your call? Bruce or Deuce for Marauders?
I feel much the same way that I feel about whether Bruce dropped a Bruce or a Deuce. I'm going to give this movie a Bruce.
This film was definitely dropped a Bruce.
It doesn't pass with flying colours. You know, it's not like, oh, this is a Bruce. This is good shit.
We've only had one of those where we were both like, this fucker.
Yeah, this is a definite step in the right direction.
Agreed. I would agree with you. Yeah.
This pisses on Precious Cargo in a lot of ways. See, Precious Cargo got through on fun.
Extremely entertaining. Entertaining beyond both of our imaginations. Yes. It entertained the shit out of us.
This gets through because it's a classier affair all around. You know,
it's the first movie I feel that was trying to achieve
it's
something more. It was really putting in like we say, it was really putting forth an effort to be more than the sum of its parts, and it came very close.
Look, you know, it was fine. You know, and I don't like to say that about a film. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a little bit on the fence. It's a little bit like, it's fine in the grand scheme. I mean,
I know what you mean.
You know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, it's fine. But in the realms and world of the Bruceverse that we're in, it's a contender.
I agreed.
It's a contender. So, you know, that's how we have to approach this.
Yes. I know what you mean.
Because ultimately, how many films are there? Sorry,
40 total. 40
okay.
of these.
Yeah. Okay, right. So let's just get this out in the open. In the grand scheme of things, even the first movie may not even be up to scratch
no, it's actually it's not. It may not make the top 10
in the movie universe.
Yep, of his films.
Of
he
the
may not
whole
make the top
movie
10
universe.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
None of these movies are really contenders. But in the Bruceverse, you know, that's the only way we can really gauge these.
No,
films.
I know what you mean. Yeah, we're gauging these against its contemporaries and what we've already seen.
Yeah,
and
so,
other movies like this that we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, this is a Bruce. This is watchable, rewatchable, quotable, mean, moody, little moments of levity when the action's not floating your boat, the acting will. Just seeing people bounce off each other, you know, with their acting chops is engaging. So for me, a Bruce.
So for me, I too agree with you. This is a Bruce.
This film was definitely dropped a Bruce.
And like you said, if you put this up against other heist movies, like we've already mentioned, like The Town or Heat, Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, that kind of stuff, no, those are classics. It's not going to be in that range. And you're going to say this is a fucking Deuce. In that realm, yes, you're right. This doesn't hold the same level as those films do. But again, if they did, it wouldn't be on this podcast right now because it wouldn't be in the annuals. In Bruce's overall filmography, it might, you know, he's got a lot of movies. Because he's got 40 of these, it's probably middle of the pack because of how many movies he's got that he added on. It's not going to touch the Sin Cities. It's not touching the Die Hards. It's not touching the Sixth Senses. It's not in that realm, right? He's not in untouchable territory. However, for what it is, in a B movie and in the Bruce Willis direct-to-DVD, or any direct-to-DVD movies that have been put out there by all these, as they call them, geezer teasers, all these famous actors just usually taking paychecks for roles. This is a pretty damn good one because this is still Dave Bautista shaking off the cloak of the wrestling and starting to put in his performances. He's great. This is Christopher Maloney trying to show the world that, hey, I'm not just this TV guy, you know. I'm a good fucking actor. I can hold my fucking own, yeah. And he's spectacular. I mean, when I say he goes toe-to-toe with Bruce, he goes toe-to-toe with Bruce. Like, fantastic in this film. And it's a fun movie. Just like with Precious Cargo. I would probably put this now above Precious Cargo because this is one of those first movies we've got a chance to see that hits almost all so close. I feel like there's still some hope that maybe there's a few other these down the road that we're going to go, you know, this wasn't bad.
Oh, no, it's definitely a glimmer of hope to, you know, you could see how after watching, you know, Vice, Extraction even, and Fire, you could see how you could start feeling like, man, I don't know if we should even continue. But there's these dips, but there's these peaks, and there's these nuances and things and tropes and little things that are kind of like making it all seem there's things to enjoy. Things are going to let you down, like you say. It's unpredictable. Ultimately, is what I'm saying. That's the unpredictability is what keeps you driving forward, isn't it?
Yes. Now, coming up for December, for Christmas, even though you have no idea that we're recording this in August. We are not even we're still ending summer. But when we finally hit Christmas, right before Christmas, so the Tuesday before Christmas, we will reach the quarter mark. We'll hit number 10. And
exciting. What is the
I've seen the trailer. The movie is Once Upon a Time in Venice. It's one of the ones that I had heard prior to this being decent. I've seen the trailer, and once again, it looks like a movie that should have been released in theaters now. And Bruce is the star.
Oh, nice.
Our first one on this journey where Bruce is the star of the film.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to read a thing. I'm not going to watch a trailer. I'm just going to go into this one blind. I'm excited.
I'm hopeful and excited too because there's also some decent acting in it, some actors in it. So I'm hopeful. But please enjoy the rest of your holiday season and join us just shy of a week from Christmas when we drop our 10th episode of Dropping a Bruce. We make the quarter turn. We're a fourth of the way there. 30 more to go after it as we check out Once Upon a Time in Venice as we get close to shutting down season 1, which is amazing to think that we're getting that close. After we started the first one, I never knew we were going to make it this far. So who knew? We're in it now, folks. We can't turn back. I think we're past the point of no return.
Nope.
So. And that will do it for our 9th episode. Please feel free to reach out to us on the show's socials, which can be found in the show notes, and tell us what you thought about this film, how you feel about Bruce as an actor, or even to let us know what you think about this podcast. We'd also greatly appreciate it if you give the show a like, leave us a review, and follow the podcast on the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, where you can find other amazing shows dedicated to such iconic action stars as Stallone, Lundgren, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, and Seagal. The link to the network can be found in our show notes. So be sure to check out the new episodes of our main show, the Cheeky Bastards Podcast. They dropped 2 weeks prior to Dropping a Bruce and are available wherever you get your podcasts, and now also on the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network. So will you please join us again next month as Steve and I will be reviewing Bruce's role in 2017's American crime comedy, Once Upon a Time in Venice, to once again see if he dropped a deuce or if he dropped a Bruce. Until then.
Yippee Ki-Yay, motherfucker. This has been a Man with an Exceptional Beard production.